The 2023 season has now come and gone across IndyCar and the entire Road to Indy ladder. So to close off the final race weekend of the year, I want to take a look back. Back at the start of the year, I made a video going over my drivers to look out for in 2023. A short list of a few drivers that had my attention. So now with the season in our mirrors, I want to take a look back on this video. Today, I give a retrospective look at my drivers to look out for in 2023. So how this will work is you'll hear past me talk about a driver, then afterward you'll hear present day me go over that driver's season, and also judge what I said back in March. So with that out of the way, let's get started. In the first year of the USF Junior Series, 18-year-old Canadian Mac Clark took the championship with 5 wins on the year and a grand total of 12 podiums. He had some awesome drives this year, including going from the back of the grid to the podium in the season finale at COTA. On top of winning the inaugural USF Juniors title in 2022, he also won in his first ever USF 2000 race weekend in Portland. He shows a lot of promise and will be competing in USF 2000 for this upcoming 2023 season. Keep an eye on the speedy Canadian, because there's a real chance he'll leave this year with yet another title. Mac finished this year 5th in the USF 2000 standings, only grabbing 2 wins. It's not a bad year, but he certainly didn't live up to the expectations I had. He was pretty inconsistent as well, having 5 finishes outside the top 10. This was a year of some growing pains, and definitely a far cry from the dominance he showed in USF Juniors last year. However, he also showed some great speed in his USF Pro 2000 debut late in the year, so maybe a change in scenery could bring the young Canadian back to championship form. We'll just have to wait and see. To IndyCar fans of the late 90s and early 2000s, the last name Giaffone will sound familiar. Well, the name is set to return to the Road to Indy ladder. Enter Nicholas Giaffone, the son of IndyCar race winner Philippe Giaffone. Nick is off the back of a successful year in Brazilian F4, which saw him grab 3 wins on his way to a 5th place points finish. Those are decent numbers for his first year in cars, and it'll be interesting to see how he does this year in USF Juniors. Well, what Nick Giaffone did this year was win the USF Juniors Championship in pretty convincing fashion. Winning the championship with a race to spare, he proved himself quite nicely this year. With a move to USF 2000 all but guaranteed, it'll be interesting to see what he has in store. You can expect him to show up in my drivers to look out for in 2024 video. Another young Brazilian on the USF Juniors grid is Lucas Fecury. After a successful career in karts, which saw him win races and championships in both his native Brazil and the US, he's now moving into cars. He and Nick Giaffone will be part of the same team, D-Force Racing. It's safe to say there's some talented Brazilians coming through the Road to Indy system, and once Tony Kanaan and Helio Castroneves both hang up their helmets, it looks like there's going to be some drivers to fly the Brazilian flag. There's not a whole lot to say about Fecury, other than the fact that he wasn't too good. He finished 9th in the standings, and even got beat by Hudson Schwartz, who skipped out in the first 3 races of the year. Besides a podium in Barber towards the start of the season, Lucas was unsuccessful, to put it mildly. Success in karts doesn't always convert to cars, so after this past year in USF Juniors, as well as a pretty bad time in Formula Regional Oceania earlier this year, time could be running out for Lucas to make a solid season-long impression. He could move up to USF 2000 next year, but his series debut in Portland was pretty bad, and I think he desperately needs more time in USF Juniors. Who knows what 2024 could look like for him? We'll just have to wait and see. After winning the USF 2000 and Indy Pro 2000 championships in back-to-back years, Rasmussen entered the Indy Lights Series last year, and was 1 gallon of fuel short of winning his first ever race in his first start. He had a frankly inconsistent 2022, but still managed to pick up 2 wins and finish 6th in the championship. The Dane is with HMD Dale Coyne for this year, as looking to complete his sweep of the Road to Indy ladder by taking the championship and punching his ticket to IndyCar in 2024. But if I was a betting man, I would put my money on the man that beat him to the Rookie of the Year title last year. Well, this aged like milk. In a year which was about as consistent as expired mayonnaise in the Indy NXT series, Rasmussen was consistently the best driver on the grid, and now he's the inaugural Indy NXT champion. Back at the start of 2021, there hadn't been a Danish IndyCar driver for decades. Now with Christian Lundgaard and Benjamin Peterson in the series, Christian Rasmussen is looking like a surefire 3rd for the 2024 IndyCar season. 5 wins, a championship trophy in not just Indy NXT, but every rung of the Road to Indy ladder, and a bunch of scholarship money to boot should give him a chance in the big show next year. He's a big talent that I've had my eyes on for a while now, and hopefully he can find himself in a decent IndyCar ride soon. Now we wait for the inevitable announcement of him getting the number 18 Dale Coyne car next year. With 2 wins, 3 poles, and 7 podiums, Hunter McElrea finished 4th in last year's Indy Lights Championship. With more resources and experience under his belt, my money would be on McElrea. He's looking to become the first New Zealander to win the Indy Lights Championship since 2000, when Scott Dixon took the championship in his second season in the series. If you're in the same category as Scott Dixon, you gotta be doing something right. McElrea won't have it easy this year, as his teammate is Lewis Foster, your 2022 Indy Pro 2000 champion. But if I had to put money on who's gonna walk away with the first ever Indy NXT title, it's gonna be Hunter McElrea. If the start of the year wasn't as painfully mediocre for Hunter, this championship fight would have been a lot closer. And for all we know, it could have been Hunter McElrea taking the championship trophy. Instead, Hunter ends the year a distant second in the championship. I'm split on his performances this season, and I'm equally split on whether he should move to IndyCar next year. I'd argue that another year in the series to finally grab that title could play well, but I could also see him taking the step up to IndyCar for next season. He's certainly a very talented driver, but he also made some costly mistakes. It's a bag of mixed emotions. We'll just have to wait and see what 2024 looks like. Continuing with the Indy NXT field, we take a look at the only female competing this year, Andretti Autosport's Jamie Chadwick. Jamie is a 3-time champion of the W Series, and in fact is the only champion in series history. With a fully funded program this year, I don't think it's too unrealistic to predict a couple podiums and maybe even a win or two. Keep an eye out on her in the DHL number 28, because I personally think she's the best female IndyCar prospect since Simone Di Silvestro. When looking over Jamie Chadwick's season, I feel the need to read a quote from famed author William Faulkner that I feel embodies her season. Given the choice between the experience of pain and nothing, I would choose pain. Some may ask, which category does Jamie Chadwick's season fall into? And I'm thinking both. She had a nothing season results-wise, and it was painful to look at. With a 12th place points finish, and no real standout moments, good or bad, her season was partially bad, but mostly boring. Also, that prediction about her grabbing podiums and possibly a win, that was a doozy. If she gets a second year in that car, keyword being if. Actually, while editing this video, the news just came out that Andretti and DHL have ended their relationship. It's not the most shocking development in the world, especially so considering how much DHL rolled back their support of the number 28 IndyCar program over the last 2 years, but still leaves a massive and likely irreparable hole in Andretti's budget. Although it's yet to be announced, this news likely means that Jamie will not be returning to the team or series next year. For all we know, she could still return, but with the team's lone backer pulling out and her not bringing in a lot of sponsorship money herself, it seems like the writing's on the wall. I'll have to keep an eye on her again, this time with much more reasonable expectations. Despite only being 18, Kyffin Simpson is a hot commodity at the moment. He's a Chip Ganassi development driver, and if he has a fantastic season in 2023, it's very likely that he'll be in that 11 car part-time in 2024, or even be Alex Palou's full-time replacement in the 10 car. Only time will tell what the kid from Barbados can do this year, but I think he has the potential to turn some heads. Kyffin is a very fast driver, but my god is he inconsistent. He had some really impressive performances, but also had a barrel full of mistakes. He ended the year 10th in the standings, not too good, but he had some real standout moments. It's just the fieriness needs to be ironed out before I can see him as a legit championship contender. He's still a young guy though. He's only 2.5 months older than me, has a Chip Ganassi development deal, and will probably be Scott Dixon's replacement upon his retirement. I expected some inconsistency from Kyffin this year, but I'm also expecting some improvements next year. If it doesn't come, I'm going to be asking some questions. Finally, we move on to the biggest stars of them all, the IndyCar drivers. And to start, I want to talk about David Malukas. I'll go out on a limb and say that Malukas is going to impress even more this year than last. And that includes taking Dale Coyne back to victory lane for the first time since St. Pete in 2018. Dale Coyne Racing was a motorsports equivalent of a Monty Python sketch this year, and it hurt David Malukas pretty badly. He wound up 17th in points, one spot lower than his rookie season. Part of the reason why that's the case is down to a pretty shocking 6 DNFs, with 4 of them being in a row in late spring and early summer. However, Malukas was still very impressive this season, which explains why McLaren have snapped him up for 2024. 2024 is going to be an interesting year for him, and I think it'll spell good things for the young American. While most other drivers are on this list because I think they'll do great, Jack Harvey is on here because I think he's on the chopping block. Last year in the Hy-Vee Rahal number 45 was pretty poor, with Harvey only getting a single top 10. It was so bad that Rahal shuffled their lineup, as for 2023, Harvey will be in the number 30 car, with promising young gun and former Alpine junior Christian Lundgaard in the 45. If Jack doesn't turn around his performances this year, it's likely we could see Rahal drop him after just 2 seasons. Jack has the talent to do great things in that car, it's just that he and the team need to piece it together this year. Well, it seems like I was wrong when I said that Rahal would drop Harvey after 2 seasons, as he got canned 3 races before that. Even with the Cinderella story of Harvey making his way into the field at Indy, I can't say his firing is unjustified. The only thing the partnership between Rahal and Harvey resulted in was 2 future season review videos on this channel, one that should be coming out by the end of the year. I already made a video going a bit farther in depth about Harvey's time at Rahal, so check that out if you feel so inclined. I'll end this by reiterating the point that I feel more confident in with every passing day. This season might have been the last we'll see of Jack Harvey in the world of IndyCar. What a disappointment. After a couple of bad years at Andretti, which no doubt will make their appearances on my season review series, Alex Rossi, for the first time in his IndyCar career, will be with another team. Although Rossi finally broke through and won a race last year, I still have some lingering questions on how he'll do this year. Will the change in scenery bring Alex Rossi back to his winning ways, or will there be some growing pains? Leave your opinions down below. Well, there's certainly some growing pains this year, and it doesn't help that McLaren were a bit slower this year than last. But despite that, Rossi was a changed man this year. There were some stats where he regressed, but the year overall was still an improvement. Rossi finished the year P9 in the championship, and has best average finish since 2019. If McLaren takes another few steps in the right direction, we could see Alex Rossi improve even more next year. Only time will tell. Well, that just about rounds it off for this retrospective look into what was going through my mind last spring. This video and the original one from back in March were both really fun to do, so expect the 2024 version to come out the week before the start of the season. I already have some drivers picked out, and I plan on having a much bigger list for next season just because I have a lot to say. But until then, that'll do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a great afternoon.